Well, hello, everybody. This is Sarah Colata with Architecture Talk Tongue. Today I have Lisa Raynes with me from Pride Road Architects, and we're going to be talking about franchising your business and alternative business models in architecture. So tune in because it's going to be a really exciting and interesting talk. But first things first, hello, Lisa. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me. So it's during COVID, so I've got children at home and dogs at home. So please, if anyone comes in, ignore them.
Exactly. It's okay. We're all at home, I believe, so it's quite normal.
Yeah, I can hear them all clanking around in the background.
Oh, happy home on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Everyone in. Anyway, so let's dive into it. Lisa, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, but mostly interested in the journey that got you to where you are?
Sure. So I'm Lisa Raynes, Raynes, and I'm a chartered architect based in the UK. So with about 20 years experience as a chartered architect. So I started out on the traditional journey. I studied in Leeds and then London, did my at the Bartlett to do my Part 2s, and then did my RIBA Part 3s up in the Northwest. And I was working for large practices, sort of enjoying my early 20s and sort of living the life, working those long hours, working on exciting projects. And once I'd qualified, I kind of lost my confidence a bit. We were working long hours. I was newly qualified. There was some people in my team there was a guy in my team who was more senior than me, but working under me, and started just challenging my competency. I was like, hold on a second. And that's when those inner voices start, and you're like, right, okay, kind of toppled me a bit. So I went out, I left, I went to New York, so tried to rebuild some of those confidences, and then came back to the UK, worked at Urban Splash, and then sort of moved around practice a little bit. The economy was quite shaky. So the nature of architecture is it's a good profession when the economy is buoyant. But once the economy shrinks and there's a recession, there's a lot of job losses, a lot of movement, and it's quite, if you've not established yourself properly, when the economy is buoyant, you end up moving around quite a lot. So I did, and then once I got into another kind of another practice, I started a family. So which was fine to start off with, because the economy was kind of rising and buoyant, and so quite supportive. But then once it started shrinking, my place as a part-time worker in a practice was less secure. So I ended up being made redundant twice whilst on maternity leave. I've got 3 kids, and in 2010, I was out of a job. I was the breadwinner, 3 kids, and there was no architecture jobs to be had. So even though up to that point I'd always been quite ambitious, when I first set out, I was like, yes, I want to run my own practice. I wanted to become a director. But actually what I kind of wanted to do was kind of rise up slowly within a practice, within a secure practice, but that was never going to happen. And then when I was made redundant, I had no choice but to set up on my own. So that was like the key driver, was just necessity. And they say necessity is the mother of invention. And so that was really the start of my architectural business journey.
So interesting. I mean, I thank you so much for sharing all this, because it sounds like there's been a lot of personal things also that took like a major role in how the life developed and the career developed. And you know, a lot of times oftentimes we feel like those low moments are something we don't want to go back to. But something that I keep realizing, and definitely found that to be true in my own life, is that sometimes when we have those moments, we kind of push to develop something more creative and something more from ourselves, you know, and take the situation and just turn it into something good. And knowing what you do now, which is a great business model and business packed with value as well. I know that you turned your story around, and do you want to tell us a little bit about Pride Road Architects and what you do there?
Sure. So back in 2010, when I set up on my own, first of all, the practice was called Raynes Architecture. So not very imaginative. It was my name and architecture. And we, when we started out, I was like, right, what do you want to do? I want to do everything. I want to do anything. What sort of clients do you want to work with? I want to work with any type of clients. What sort of business structure do you want? Well, I just started to map out the same business structures as I'd seen. So, you know, kind of male-dominated office with, you know, sort of like 2 part 1s, 1 part 2, a technician, a technical director, a design director, and then someone in finance. You know, and that, so I'd seen that. I thought it worked. Clearly it didn't, because it didn't support me, you know, whilst I was on, you know, whilst I was having children. But that's the model that I'd seen, and I thought I was going to replicate. So sure enough, I started trying to build up commercial clients and growing a team of people. But I soon realised that it was very risky. With commercial clients and large fees, there's more risk if fees are put on hold, and they're late payers as well. So I soon found myself with cash or potential cash flow issues, where I had a team of people that I needed to feed, and cash flow issues. And I started to map out the domestic client journey. So when you know, the first jobs that I had on were domestic extensions, 1-story, 2-story extensions. You know, the kind of, yeah, that's what everyone does first, and then they move on. But I started to map out the numbers and the conversion rates and the timescales and the fees. And I started to realise that actually that market was more predictable. There was a regularity of numbers. You could, you know, kind of get a certain amount of interest. It was more stable because the risks were much lower. If you're dealing in larger numbers of clients, and one client sort of changes their mind or loses their job, you know, they're not going to jeopardize your business. And I could start to see that they paid well. So they paid within 7 days. So if you're ever working for larger clients, you know, they're usually on a 90-day payment term, or, you know, if you start working with, you know, NHS, it's even longer. And that can sink your business if you haven't got the cash flow to manage that. So the cash was coming in, it was predictable, I had my numbers, and I just looked around and thought, why am I chasing an unpredictable sectors when, you know, this is a stream of people, it's a market that is hugely overlooked and undervalued by architects, because, you know, a lot of architects decide, yeah, let's start with a few, domestic clients, and then I'm going to move on. So they leave them behind. They don't serve them very well. If there's a planning issue and you're, looking after a larger commercial project, you're like, oh, that's slips or whatever. So just really started to provide a quality service to my residential homeowners. And then I kind of realised at the same time that there was an issue in the industry about women leaving the industry, women leaving architecture. Sort of following a similar path to me, having kids, and then sort of just losing confidence and not going back into the workplace. And so the attrition rate's dreadful. And yet I'd found a business model that suited kind of family life, really. You could take holidays, you don't need to work 24/7. You're naturally meeting your clients, and it was predictable. So I'd found the solution and then identified the problem, and I put the pair together, and that was the flash of inspiration for, right, there's a franchise here. It came from a kind of altruistic place, kind of wanting to help people, mentee, mentor, coach, but really just show the way. This is how I've done it. This works, and just pull people up. Come join, see how it works, learn from me, learn this journey, and then learn business skills as well.
So amazing. I mean, I'm extremely passionate about business and architecture both together. And I love how through all these walks of life and these things that happen to you on your journey, you somehow managed to conjoin the two. And there is a really deep value also, like helping women, which, I completely resonate with your message, because I also have sort of at some point burned out, and I was like, I cannot with this anymore. And I, by that time, was running my own practice. So it's a big kind of part of, I don't know if it has to do with women in the male-dominated industry, or it's generally the traditional model of architecture that basically burns some people out, especially when you these principles change, facing a reality where you maybe want to start a family. It's definitely can become a reason why women drop out. So I want to ask for you to explain a little bit what franchise even is, and how it works really, so that for the people that may not fully understand or maybe may relate to some high street franchises, like how does it really work, and how did you apply it in architecture or in your business?
Yeah, well, it is like, the well-known franchise that everyone knows about is McDonald's.
Yeah.
So that, if you order at McDonald's, you're going to get exactly the same thing. What the store's going to look like, what the uniforms are going to be look like, what the product's going to be, what the price is going to be, because it's made in the same way. So in a way, that's what we do as well. So we provide the branding that's Pride Road, and we teach or train our franchisees to kind of follow our processes to do the same thing. I mean, we're not making burgers, we're making a product, and our product is the architectural service, but we deliver it in the same way. So we have the same setup for meetings, the same questions that we ask, the same kind of tools to show the clients. We've got the same marketing images, photos, branding, logos, templates. So when an architect comes to join Pride Road, they can just concentrate on being an architect. They don't actually have to they don't have to think about all that stuff. You know, how am I going to do a briefing document? How am I going to do a fee proposal? What photos shall I show them? What should my charging structure be? You know, how do I, work my SEO? How do I get advertising to those clients? You know, we've done it, we've got it, and we provide that. So as an architect, you kind of sit within our business model, and then you just sort of kind of work the system. So it kind of takes the risk out of sort of setting up your business, and I think that's the key thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The risk, and I think also the levels of creativity that you have to put into things that you're not extremely familiar with, which is marketing and business, and also knowing exactly what to do when in order to launch a business, which is really quite a lot of elements. And I think that basically joining a franchise helps with that, because you get all of that in form of training rather than having to figure it all out on your own. So you're kind of solving two issues here, really, in a way, because one is obviously helping mainly women who, to have a business, to be independent, and to still practice architecture, which is great because they can still stay in architecture, not move away from it, which I think is a loss always when that happens. But another thing is also actually empowering people to become business people without feeling like they have to go to business school, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's the equivalent of an MBA, sort of joining and a lot of people, you find this in the franchise industry. People go and buy a franchise and run a franchise business themselves for, say, 5 years. And then you come out of it and you've got those skills of running a business or knowing how a franchise works. And then you can go off and apply those skills to something else, except, you've had a profitable business during that time rather than, just another academic course.
Exactly. It's brilliant. It really is amazing. So let's talk a little bit about the idea alone of actually franchising. I mean, you told me already how, you came up with it and all that, but it is such an alternative thing to do in architecture, really, to bring an idea of a franchise into it. I mean, of course, like Gensler, I guess, does that, right? Or do they even? I'm not sure. Or do they just?
I mean, the idea of the franchise. Well, I think it's essentially about systemizing. So, if you've got your own business, or you're working, if you've set up your own practice, it's about systemizing. So it's about not reinventing the wheel when you come across a problem. So it's kind of learning, I say, I've kind of got a review perspective. So if I do a task, I can then review it afterwards and go, right, what have I learned from it? What can I apply to the next task to make it faster, quicker, more efficient? So you're not having to go through the same hurdles again. And then being able to pass that on to other people.
Absolutely, definitely. It's great, and I think it was just a perfect solution to not only the problem but also the situation you were in. There is definitely, I wanted to talk a little bit about generally like alternative ways of establishing businesses in architecture, because all in all, architecture follows a very traditional path. And I talk a lot about this in this Talk Tank series. And we know how those things can work, but also how they don't, because a lot of people get burned out. And there is a general fear that if you don't follow that path, there is, what else am I going to do? because I think that there isn't that variety really out there, and we're not encouraged. And because of not knowing enough business or marketing, it's really hard to know how to apply those architectural skills in a different way than the traditional path. And so I think that a lot of architects are facing this issues, but they don't know really how to navigate through it. And so I'm always interested in like whichever way people manage to navigate that is alternative to the traditional. Have you? Well, I guess I wanted to ask whether you've been considering, or you know of other alternative pathways that were interesting as well, and generally what's your experience from it, having walked that journey of actually kind of developing an alternative path in architecture?
I mean, when I set out, I think it was a simple, you know, am I going to be a sole practitioner, or you know, am I going to be a sole trader or a limited company? Because I knew I was doing it on my own, so it was my own decision. So I think that was the first thing, and that's an accounting thing, whether you file accounts or not. Limited company gives you a bit more protection as well. I never really sought to go into partnership with anyone. There wasn't anyone that kind of jumped out or was around at the same time. Otherwise, that's usually quite an obvious route that people go down. They kind of, you know, you might be with a colleague at a practice, and you know the redundancy at the same time, or someone decides to go alone and takes the other one with. And so, you know, partnerships are quite common. And I suppose, you know, part of me does regret not having a partner, because you can play to each other's strengths. One might be stronger on one side and the other. You know, one might have more business knowledge, or client facing, or, you know, design, or people, or whatever. So there was that for me. But at the same time, you know, I'd heard horror stories about people setting up in partnership and then splitting up, and it's worse than a divorce. I think. Having done that as well, I don't really want to do it. Yeah, so you could, but I mean, I've always been a sole, you know, a managing director, and I've not had fellow sort of directors. So kind of like the buck stops with me. There's something really liberating about that, though. The first time that, you know, I got my own PI insurance, and I could give my own advice, and I knew that I'd paid for the insurance, and they were going to back me up or not.
Yeah.
And when I didn't have to go back to someone and check the copy on a website, or check a drawing or whatever, really liberating and very enjoyable. And then at the same time, you know, it's just me running the business. And now as a franchise owner, it's me running the franchise. So there's kind of quite a few more people that are relying on me to kind of keep going. And it gets me up in the morning and, you know, leaping out of bed. And I've done that every day for 10 years, which can't say I did when I was working in practice.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so the question kind of about business models. So we were talking earlier about franchise opportunities. Now I'm based in the UK, and you know, I've split the country into 155 territories. So there are 155 franchise opportunities in the UK. And so if someone wanted to join Pride Road, they would they need to be an architect. So that's a UK registered architect. So that's registered with the ARB. RIBA is preferable, but ARB at the minimum. When it comes to overseas, that will be the first time I'd be looking to go into partnership with someone. So if I was looking to franchise out, say, to Germany, I would be looking for a master franchisor. So that would be someone in the, architecture community who has a business background, or who has a keen business background or a marketing background. And in that case, that would be a partnership.
Interesting. It's a great opportunity. And you say that everyone's welcome, but mainly women are ideal.
I would say everyone, it's a supportive platform in a Pride Road. That's the aim of it. We are, if you see my logo, we are,
yes.
Yeah, it's a lioness.
Yes.
Oh, I'm pointing in the wrong direction.
It's
a lioness. There you go. And it's pride. We work in a pride. It's a team of lions, we like to say. So, it's a supportive model. If you want to go off and build skyscrapers, this isn't the structure for you. If you want to use your hard-earned skills and talent to help homeowners and kind of as many people as possible, then this is the way. I mean, I sort of initially, when I set up, I was thinking about going into social housing to help use my skills to help multiple, tenants. But what I found with Pride Road is that, by providing a service to the kind of mass market, I've helped much more people, and it's much more rewarding.
Excellent. So if people were interested to find out more or talk to you about potentially a franchise, where do they go?
So loads of information on the website prideroadfranchise.co.uk, or they can contact me directly on LinkedIn or Instagram. It's Lisa Raynes, Raynes.
Excellent. LinkedIn or Instagram.
DM me.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me today on this talk. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed hosting you as a guest and talking about franchising. And guys, if you're interested in connecting with Lisa, go on LinkedIn and connect, talk to her. And also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Sarah Colata, for more of these podcasts. They're happening now twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we have more exciting guests to come. So thank you very much for tuning in. And thank you, Lisa, as well, for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.